today's program, the 18th edition of BCCNI's Environment and Energy Conclave. We are privileged to have the dignitaries who have very kindly graced or consented to grace us today. We would request our speakers for the opening session to please join us on the dais. Mr. Vinit Sikka, Chairperson, Energy, Environment, Water National Committee, BCCNI and MD Distribution CSC Limited. Sri Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairperson, Central Electricity Authority. Sri Rajiv Kumar, Program Director, Health and Family Welfare, State and Finances, Sustainable Development Goals, Women and Child Development, Niti Aayog. Dr. Ajay Mathur, Professor of Practice in School of Public Policy at IIT Delhi and former Director General, International Solar Alliance. Mr. Direk Michael Shah, Special Invitee, Energy, Environment, Water National Committee, BCCNI, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, L&T Energy Green Tech. Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, CEO, BSES Rajdhani Power Limited. Thank you all of you once more to join us here today. Just to give the, I hope you have got the program flow. It was circulated with you, and on the website link has also been circulated. QR is at the registration desk. If you want, you can, scan the program schedule. So the opening session would be followed by sessions on financial models and technology adaptations, energy security in Viksit Bharat, 2030 agenda for sustainable development, collaborations and partnerships, and then the valedictory session followed by our presentation on energy efficiency and our resource utilization. With this, I would request Mr. Vinit Sikka, Chairperson, Energy, Environment, Water National Committee, BCCNI and MD Distribution CSC Limited, to formally welcome all.
Chairperson, Central Electricity Authority, Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad. Program Director, Niti Aayog, Mr. Rajiv Kumar Senji. Dr. Ajay Mathur, Mr. Direk Shah, Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, and the dignitaries in the audience. Very good morning to all of you, and a very warm welcome on behalf of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry to this program. So with the population of 1.4 billion, India is amongst the fastest growing economies and the world's third largest producer and consumer of electricity. Its energy transition is central to strengthening security, tackling climate risks, and sustaining growth. Positioning the nation as a global clean energy leader, backed by progressive policies and rising investments, India is rapidly advancing its clean energy and sustainability goals. Since 2000, 700 million people gained access to electricity and 80 million new LPG connections were provided. Country is aiming for 500 gigawatt of RE capacity by 2030 at net zero by 2070. India aims to raise the share of natural gas in its sustainable energy mix from 6 to 10% by 2030. Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries has been working in the clean energy and sustainability space for quite some time. In fact, BCCI were the only chambers of commerce to have been invited to COP26 in Glasgow to present a 90-minute session on e-mobility. We are working extensively in the Sundarban area in West Bengal, planting mangroves and developing skills as a part of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. In mangrove nurseries and generating livelihood for local people, especially focusing on women and youth in the mangrove plantations. The mangrove plantations are a part of either CSR initiatives or blue carbon project for carbon credit of corporates and business entities. At BCCI, our focus is to include sustainability as a part of the core business decisions. Toward this, we constantly focus on facilitating collaborations by B2B and B2G connects capacity building programs in the area like decarbonization, circular economy, waste management, ESG are some of our value generating services to the industry. Bengal Chamber is also engaged in policy advocacy, startup incubation, research and project implementations. So this conclave has embarked on the 18th edition with multi-stakeholder participation and exchange of thoughts, observations, recommendation, best practices. We have navigated through discussions including Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, net zero commitments, ESG, SDG 17, clean coal, RE transition, grid integration, and similar topics have also converged with resource utilization, circular economy, and even topics like diversity and equity and inclusion at this conclave. Global dynamics have broadened our vision on interdependence of factors of climate actions, mitigation, and adaptations. So India will require approximately about 32 lakh crores of investments in renewable sector by 2030 to meet energy transition goals, low cost funding through innovative financing mechanism, engaging with green funds, philanthropic funds may accelerate investments. So in today's discussions in this program, we will focus on sustainability in Viksit Bharat, collaborations and implementation with financial models, and technology adoptions. As a part of theme, we will also deliberate on energy security, collaborations, and partnership for 2030 agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. We would now request Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairperson of Central Electricity Authority, to please deliver his address.
Good morning everyone. All the dignitaries sitting on the dais and off the dais. It has always been a pleasure to be a part of the session being organized by Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries. I could see a lot of familiar faces whether I participate at Calcutta or I participate in Delhi. Theme definitely this year is quite apt, taking environment and progress together, particularly in the development of the energy sector. Yesterday we were discussing in the Niti Aayog about how do we really reach to net zero 2070, taking all energy basket together, not only electricity. For electricity we were quite comfortable that okay, we will be able to achieve that goal. But the moment you take the entire energy basket into the kitty, then probably the things becomes very mind-boggling. At present, even though we have reached, particularly let me talk about electricity first. In electricity terms, definitely we have reached around 490 gigawatt of the capacity, with 50% coming from the non-fossil, which is good, which was a target by 2030. What Sika was mentioning about 500 gigawatt, reaching 500 gigawatt by 2030. That definitely we will reach, that's not a big issue. But how do we really take it from here, and what next target should be set by India in the next NDC goals as well? That is also being debated. So definitely we can go from 50 to 60, that's the normal corollary that happens. But if I really churn the numbers further, going from 10 years from now, maybe in a time frame of 34, 35, the number comes out something like we will have to increase our installed capacity to at least twice. If I take the number further beyond, at a Viksit Bharat time frame of 2047, it looks to be around 4 times from now. If I take it to 2070, which is a net zero time frame, the number becomes much, much, much higher. But these are all based on the present day visibility that everybody has. Maybe these things might change based on the new technology or new progress, new efficiency measures that is being taken, change in the consumer behavior, further industrialization. There's so many factors which comes into play when we keep churning these numbers. But even if I take it in a shorter time frame, reaching up to 34, 35, the the numbers still is such that it throws a lot of challenges in the industry. Some of the challenges, like if I have to really go for more amount of solar, definitely land becomes an issue, connectivity becomes an issue, transmission lines becomes an issue, and I really keep wondering that the moment if I have to take it 10 times or maybe 20 times from now, what is going to be the situation on the ground? So do we have any other solutions? I'm throwing these questions to you because I need some answers from the deliberations that might be happening throughout the day today. Because of course we do keep on churning these numbers, but challenges still remains. Of course, there are innovations that is coming in, innovations in terms of solar panel efficiencies, solar alignment, could be on a wall mounted, could be on a roof mounted, could be roof itself becomes a solar. Even in terms of wind also, there are certain small wind turbines, large wind turbines, small kinetic hydro turbines. This is again another thing that has come into the segment. Even tapping electricity from high voltage transmission lines right across the LT lines. So all these combinations, permutations, combinations are happening, which definitely leads us to that. But if I have to make large numbers, I have to tap each and every opportunities that the country has at present. Now then it comes to the moment I try to see the other aspects of it. That means if I need a stable grid to be there, then I need some more such capacities which provides me a stability into the grid, provides me inertia into the grid. And then I look towards, if not coal, then what? And then the answer comes to that either I have to increase nuclear, or I have to increase hydro, or I have to increase hydro pump storage of that kitty, that nature, or I go for a synchronous condensers even. That's another way of looking at things. Even some more innovations are happening in terms of grid forming inverters or grid supporting inverters, etc., etc. But then these are all the combinations and permutations that will keep on happening. If I talk about the environment side, definitely it needs to be protected, it needs to be nurtured. But then if I have to see from both the perspective, we keep on approaching to Ministry of Environment and Forest, seeking some exemptions here and some exemptions there, so that at least our growth does not get hampered. Say for example in the GIB areas, in hydro sector, or in coal segment, how fast are the environment clearances and forest clearances can happen. Can we have some leverage towards the compensatory afforestation, etc., etc. But nevertheless, all of us are very keen on protecting the environment, and we should take the environment and the development together, so that at least we have the quick, easy balance for at least, and we leave a planet which is worth living, not only the development part of it. Third thing that matters here is the energy efficiency, how efficient we are able to use energy, and probably that is going to be the key factor as we go along. How much involvement we have in terms of distributed generations, can all the consumers also start participating in making available electricity, using it judiciously, is going to be another good factors. Probably if I see numbers in terms of our transmission lines, probably I see that the localizations becomes the key answers there. That means I have the solar rooftop, the VSS there itself, and try to match the demand of the local consumers at that point of place. Maybe Abhishek will be able to tell some experiences on that account. He has already installed 20 megawatt battery, and we have tried to see how it behaves, how it is being used in a different applications. We have, I think, try to connect it with the SLDC and the RLDC also to see its behavior in the ancillary services. So we are on the learning curves, whether it is on the BSS side or any other segments. Very soon you will find even large battery storage systems also getting commissioned in India. Already we are in that particular roadmap. Some has already been planned for 13,000 megawatt hour and some in the pipeline for 30,000 megawatt hours. But besides that, what is more important, because I was talking about hydro pump storage, after a long time we have started accelerating the process of development in the hydro pump storage segment. 1 year back we had just 4.7 gigawatt of installed capacity in hydro pump storage. At present it stands at 6.8, and slowly you will find that by 32 we are targeting somewhere around 57 gigawatt. That means almost 10 times jump in next few years, which is a very encouraging sign that we have got it. And let me thank the private sector participation again coming to our rescue in development of hydro pump storage. And in that kitty also, because I'm confident in a sense that these are all going to come not towards the Himalayan region, but mostly it is going to come towards the peninsular areas where the strata, geological surprises will be much lesser, and it is more promising because most of them are not even linked to the river, so it doesn't have much of challenges in terms of environment, and even the forest side as well. But then what we need and what we have been always requesting to the developers is that do it as quickly as possible. We are running out of time, we are running short of time. If you don't develop it, then I'll have to depend on the battery energy storage system, which I need to import from outside. So I have the choice, either we do it indigenously in India, do it in a manner which does not have even a challenge of disposal of these battery storage itself, which again is going to pose another challenge in terms of environment. So we are trying to focus on development of hydro pump storage so that at least it is there with us for next 70 years, 80 years, even 100 years or more, as compared to the other alternatives that we have at present. But going along, as we traverse the journey towards higher and higher percentage of renewables, grid operational challenges are also going to come, which we have started seeing. Some of them did happen in Rajasthan, Gujarat, etc. And we are trying to take steps so that at least we don't enter into a situation what happened recently in Spain only a few days back, and we had analyzed that and we had tried to see what actions India should also take so that such situation doesn't arise in India as well. And those things definitely will have to be incorporated and taken care by the developers when they really install and go for solar and wind whenever they come in the farms. So one is the resources, the second is its transmission, third is the uses at the consumer level, how judiciously we are able to use it, and fourth is how do we protect our environment, taking growth into factors. Definitely the demand is increasing, and in some of the segments, earlier we were not so much concerned about the load side because these were small loads, could be in some kilowatts, but now three segments are going to throw us more challenges. Particularly one is the green hydrogen and ammonia, second is electric vehicles, and third is data centers. They are all going to be very large loads. How do I manage these large loads? What precautions that we need to take when these large load get thrown out of the systems? Will it create instability? All those questions are there which we need to answer very quickly. How do we really take care of that kind of a situation? Further challenge comes is they are demanding a green power, and the moment they say green power, that means I have the challenge becomes 3-4 times more to either the suppliers, whether it is DISCOMs, or even to the grid operators who is there and trying to see that they get this. Of course, there is another narrative that is going on. Can we demarcate an area as quickly as possible which can be said as green? Can I say that there is a green state? Could be, say, we can start with Uttarakhand or maybe Himachal or maybe J&K or maybe Arunachal or whatever, wherein it becomes easier for us to demarcate those areas and say that whatever electricity is being consumed in this particular area is entirely green. Any industry who is going to set up their industry in this particular area, whatever product they're going to manufacture there is still a green product, and that will not have any other challenges the moment it comes to the export outside the country, wherein the green tag is required. So these are being deliberated, and we are trying to find solutions. Each day we face new problems. All the developers, all the stakeholders, we have to take them together, and we try to see that how best and how in a cordial manner we are able to resolve their issues and move forward, taking both the factors into account, the environment as well as the development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We would now request Mr. Rajiv Kumar Sen, Program Director of Health and Family Welfare, State and Finances, Sustainable Development Goals, Women and Child Development of NITI Aayog. He will be addressing on India's Voluntary National Review 2025, which has just been released towards Sustainable Development Goals and the scope of private sector participation.
Thank you. Very good morning to all the esteemed participants on and off dais. Let me first thank BCCI for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this seminar workshop. As was mentioned, I would like to make it clear that I'll not speak on any specific sector because I don't have the knowledge on that. But I would generally speak on the involvement and the importance of private sector participation in SDGs in general, and the experience that we gathered while we were doing the consultations on Voluntary National Review, which we presented at the UN this year. Our Honorable Vice Chairman presented it. I'll share a few experiences and a few learnings that we had with you during this process, and I'm sure some of you would have participated in those interactions that we had. So it's important to recognize that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is not just a global blueprint for governments or civil society. It is a shared responsibility that requires active participation from all sectors and especially the private sector. The 17 SDGs offer a powerful framework for addressing the world's most pressing challenges, from poverty and inequality to climate change and sustainable economic growth. The SDGs represent a strategic opportunity for business to align purposes with profit, drive innovation, and build resilient markets for the future. The context was already, I think in some of the areas was already touched upon by my earlier speaker with respect to energy and environment. The SDGs are deeply embedded in India's vision of progress. They align closely with the constitutional framework and have been integrated into national policies and governance right from the beginning. India's journey towards Agenda 2030 is not primarily about meeting targets. It is an integral part of the nation's resolve to build what we call a Viksit Bharat by 2047, when we will celebrate 100 years of our independence. The SDGs are often perceived primarily through a social lens: poverty alleviation, education, health, gender equality, etc. And indeed, these pillars are foundational for human dignity and collective progress. However, what is sometimes underemphasized is the fact that SDGs are equally commercial in nature. They are not only about addressing immediate social needs, but also creating conditions where economies can thrive sustainably, and where the natural resources we depend on are preserved for generations to come. SDGs such as sustainable industrialization, decent work, innovation, infrastructure, climate action, and responsible consumption are not abstract ideals. They are issues that directly intersect with business operations, supply chains, investment strategies, and long-term competitiveness. In fact, each of these goals represents both a responsibility and an opportunity, an obligation to contribute to a healthier planet and equitable societies, and a chance to unlock new markets, reduce inefficiencies, and build resilience against future shocks. By aligning with these priorities, companies are not engaging in charity. They are securing their license to operate in a rapidly changing world. Businesses that enable sustainability into their core strategies are not only advancing societal well-being, but also creating stable markets, enhancing productivity, improving talent retention, and reducing financial and operational risks. This is why the SDGs should be seen as more than a moral call to action. They are a strategic framework that ties together the global development priorities with long-term business value creation. The 2030 Agenda for SDGs is not just a pledge by governments to lift lives and protect ecosystems. It is an unprecedented opportunity for the private sector to align purposes with profit, to innovate with foresight, and to build lasting competitive advantage in an increasingly complex global economy. The private sector is already playing a pivotal role by leveraging its financial resources, human capital, and technological expertise to innovate and accelerate SDG implementations. This includes strategic investments in job creation, digital platforms, entrepreneurship support, and integrating SDGs into core business operations. Business have the unique capacity to innovate, scale solutions, and mobilize resources. Tackling sustainable development changes also helps companies to identify and mitigate material risks and costs, strengthen their relationships, secure their license to operate, and build long-term resilience. At the same time, it creates opportunities for innovation, new products and services, and access to new producers, consumers, and growth markets. The SDGs are not only about doing good, they are about doing well by creating long-term value for businesses and society together. As has been mentioned by one of the eminent members, Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, sustainability must transcend compliance. It must become the architecture of competitiveness. Now I move to the financing strategies. The road to 2030 and beyond is not just about closing gaps. It is about opening opportunities. Around the world, capital is moving at unprecedented speed towards sustainable solutions. It is estimated that achieving the SDGs will require over $4 trillion of investment annually worldwide. And much of this has to come from the private sector. What this tells us is simple. Sustainable financing is not an act of support, but it's also about shaping the markets of tomorrow. Investors, lenders, consumers, and citizens are demanding accountability, and companies that fail to adapt risk being locked out of global supply chains and financial markets. Let me highlight 5 critical areas where financing and private sector participation intersects. First, of course, is renewable energy sources. Solar, wind, green hydrogen, some of which have already been mentioned, are no longer fringe experiments. They are central to growth markets. Financing into storage, smart grids, and distributed energy systems can open vast revenue streams while reducing the risks of fossil dependence. Indian companies are already scaling solar, wind, and electric mobility, and this momentum must accelerate with private capital leading the way. Green bonds, sustainability-linked loans, and blended finance instruments are unlocking vast capital pools. Funds are increasingly tied to environmental, social, and governance, that is ESG performance. This is no longer symbolic. It directly determines investor confidence, creditworthiness, and cost of capital. The companies that align sustainability with financing are reaping dividends both in domestic and international markets. Financing solutions for recycling, reuse, and efficiency not only cut waste, but create new industries, new jobs, and consumer savings. From plastics recycling to water efficiency and sustainable packaging, Indian business can both lead and profit here. Transitioning to sustainable development must also mean just and inclusive growth. The private sector can play a leading role in skilling the workforce for green jobs. This is investment not just in communities, but in the future workforce that business themselves will depend upon. Finally, public-private partnerships allow risk sharing, innovation, and capital to flow where it is most needed, whether it is clean energy corridors, sustainable transport, or climate-resilient urban planning. The private sector brings expertise and agility, while government provides the enabling environment. Together, the returns are far greater than working in silos. So, friends, the message is clear. Financing sustainable development is not an expense. It It is an investment in resilience, competitiveness, and growth. And it is about creating value chains and markets that will shape our shared future. Now I come to the 2025, the VNR exercise that we undertook and the lessons. Recognizing this need for private sector's role on achieving the Agenda 2030, the 2025 Voluntary National Review, that is VNR process, galvanized voices from every sector, including national and subnational governments, civil society, and the private sector, ensuring that strategies are not only ambitious but also grounded in reality and partnership. Earlier this year, a national consultation on the role of the private sector in accelerating SDG achievement towards Viksit Bharat 2047 was convened by NITI Aayog and the UN agencies. This brought together over 100 stakeholders representing corporates, startups, CSR leaders, philanthropic foundations, and industry bodies. Beyond this, surveys and one-to-one interactions with companies were also undertaken to capture diverse perspectives and challenges. Three clear pathways for action emerge from this process. First is corporate social responsibility. India is the first country in the world to legally have mandated corporates to spend a certain percentage of their profit on CSR. Today, there is a need to promote systemic governance changes with new philanthropic and CSR policies to encourage sustained engagement beyond one-time consultations. Additionally, private sector contributions beyond financial investment could include networks, resources, and expertise to drive systemic changes. Responsible business conduct. Businesses in India are embedding sustainability, innovation, and inclusivity within their operations to accelerate SDG progress. Efforts include carbon neutrality, green infrastructure, responsible supply chains, and skilling initiatives. Companies are also focusing on diversity in procurement and integrating environmental, social, and governance principles. There are many examples of major IT companies declaring themselves fully carbon neutral, with significant reductions in electricity consumption through renewable energy. Investments in carbon offset projects have benefited thousands of families, aligning with SDG 11, that is Sustainable Cities and Communities, and SDG 17, that is Partnerships for the Goals. Companies are securing green certifications for manufacturing units, focusing on zero net liquid discharge and energy efficiency to advance sustainability goals. Third is the startup and innovation ecosystem, unlocking India's entrepreneurial energy to deliver frugal, scalable solutions in renewable energy, mobility, waste to energy, and climate resilience. Today, in India, startups are driving impactful solutions across healthcare, agriculture, sustainability, and social inclusion. Innovations include AI-driven health diagnostics, climate-smart agriculture, and circular economy models. Startups are also driving the transition to a circular economy through scalable solutions in waste management, sustainable packaging, and responsible consumption. Entrepreneurship-led initiatives are creating economic opportunities for women and marginalized groups by addressing critical social changes such as menstrual health, financial inclusion, and vocational skill development. This multi-stakeholder process was not just about reporting, it was about building collective ownership of the SDGs. The VNR process made one fact very clear, that is, a whole of society approach is essential for the SDG progress. And the private sector is not just a participant, but is also a co-architect. In conclusion, I would like to mention that the SDGs are a roadmap for resilient business, inclusive growth, and a sustainable planet. At this conclave of environment and energy, as we discuss pathways to a greener future, let us hold firm to this truth that without participation from all the actors, especially the private sector leadership, the SDGs will remain aspirational. With it, they become achievable and a shared responsibility. And if business aligns profits with purpose and innovation with inclusivity, then we can truly achieve what India envisions as Viksit Bharat 2047, a developed nation that is sustainable, resilient, and equitable. The SDGs give us the framework, and the private sector gives us the speed, resources, and innovation. Together, they can turn ambition into achievement and build the future that we seek. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Mr. Ghanshyam sir has to leave, so
We would now move forward to the theme address by Dr. Ajay Mathur, Professor of Practice in the School of Public Policy at IIT Delhi and former DGISA. He needs no further interruption. So, Dr. Mathur, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ankana. Mr. Sen, Mr. Sikka is not here, my dear friend Abhishek and Derek, and the many friends of many, many years as well as of today in the audience. I am delighted to be here at the conclave being put together by the BCCI in Delhi, and I look forward to this becoming a regular event, not only annually, but hopefully a lot more periodically. We are talking here about Viksit Bharat. Mr. Sen spoke a great deal about it. I will not repeat except to say that number one, it is all-encompassing. It is looking at the very basis of the future that we see for ourselves. In other words, it's aspirational. We are looking at social empowerment, issues like achieving obviously zero poverty and good quality education and good health services, skilled labor with 100% employment, farmers make India the bread basket of the world, and so on. Similarly on economic growth, similarly on infrastructure and technology. It also looks at energy. It looks at the Indian Railways as being a net zero emitter by carbon emitter by 2030. The point I want to leave with you is that there is a vision in place. There's a vision for 2047, which is already there. This helps us and will hopefully help me in making some of the points that I do as we move ahead. Now, we have a number of areas in which multi-stakeholder partnerships already exist, whether they are the public-private partnerships that we tried yesterday or the ways in which we are doing public-private partnerships today, whether it is the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which we established, I don't know, 2008 or something, whether it is the industry alliances, particularly the Sustainable Finance Collaborative. In the private sector, we see particularly the Mahindra's group efforts to regenerate forests or the ITC's Sunehra Kal mission. All of these speak to the fact that there are all kinds of alliances being formed in society. So this is another point that I would like to suggest. We need to work together. We've also focused on implementation. All of us talk about the fact that policies, we have great policies, but implementation is poor. I would like to suggest that the Swachh Bharat mission has focused on implementation, has focused on the competition between cities as a way of enhancing what individual cities do. We have focused on the reporting requirements by the by SEBI, the BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainable Reporting, I think is what it's called. The BRSR provides us with an, yes, it's not it doesn't cover everybody, but it covers the 1,000 top companies. It is a start in ensuring that companies do and companies report. It helps, in my belief, it helps two things. It obviously provides goals, but it also provides other companies with best of class practices that can be copied. We have also changed the procedure by which we give incentives. The production-linked incentives provide us with a tool by which we first have implementation, we then have sales, and then have incentives based on those sales. To me, the back-ended incentives, the fact fact that we have a number of them, the fact that we are able to attract new investment into production-linked incentives tells me that we are focusing on implementation. We've also seen these kinds of collaborations occur across technology. If you look at, what is the National Solar Mission? At the end of the day, it's a technology mission. And the renewable purchase obligation initially followed by the sourcing of electricity through auctions and then by reverse auctions is a means of bringing in the private sector, developing local capacity, bringing competition and decreasing the price. It has achieved its purpose. I also believe that the FAME incentive of providing an incentive on the batteries is exactly where we want to go as far as electric vehicles is concerned. You don't do incentives for the sake of incentives, you're doing it if you are able to put batteries into vehicles and sell them. So, therefore, we also have a group of financial instruments in place, whether it is the green bonds. India is one of the few countries, in fact, I think the only developing country which has issued sovereign green bonds. Number of private companies have issued green bonds. The Sustainable Finance Network of the Reserve Bank of India, which is the, what is it called, the Network for Greening the Financial System, in GFS, is a wonderful means. And the current draft, which is under finalization of the Ministry of Finance on the taxonomy of green finance, move us in a direction where the finance is also being green. So what do I draw from all of this? Where is it that we should go? I would like to focus on the fact that all of these set the vision, the long-term vision. What we need to do is to see how we get there from here, from where we are. In my view, therefore, the long-term goals are clear. We need shorter-term goals, maybe a series of them, to reach the long-term goal. Now, short-term goals can only be met if three kinds of goals are simultaneously met. You and I must benefit from that. We must see what the benefit is. Only then you are okay with it. So social viability is very important. The second is that the business sector must see that their business grows. Their market share hopefully increases. They have the option, at least, of working towards enhancing both their profits and their market share. If they don't see a future for it, it will not fly. So the second issue is commercial viability. But the first and most important is political viability. The ruling dispensation must see that they're able to enhance their vote share. They may or may not, is a different matter. But they must see that this contributes towards the increase in the vote share. So social viability, commercial viability, and political viability, I believe, are essential for ensuring that policies move towards the sustainability direction that we are looking at. Where are we? I believe that on a few actions, for example, renewables, there's broad social viability. There's also commercial viability because at least in the medium term, in the short term, of course, but even in the medium term, people are looking at new businesses, ways of enhancing their business. And because it is something which you and I benefit from, we would be happy to vote for the government. Consequently, there is political viability. I think we need to see how this kind of a framework can be replicated in other areas so that we can have a broad sustainability agenda based on the fact that there are long-term goals and the short-term goals match those or contribute towards the longer-term goals. The second is, and this is something that I strongly believe in. You need to create demand. Demand is at the end the main driver of competition. We have been, I mean, I gave a lot of examples. We have been creating demand. That provides the kind of emphasis that is needed for all of us to move towards action that is very oriented towards, on the one hand, reaching sustainable development goals, sustainability, but on the other hand, also enabling us to meet the growing needs. You know, the idea of India becoming the bread basket, the idea of reducing fertilizer, believe you me, I'm a small farmer. And the fact that the use of subsidized urea has ruined the soil is something that we are beginning to address now, but we will need to address it. And the problem is, if you have subsidized urea and reduce the subsidies on it, there is a farmer reaction. How do you balance the political viability and the social viability? But creating demand has helped us. We looked at how renewable portfolio obligations created the large-scale demand for development of a capacity to meet the renewables. By moving from the feed-in tariffs to auctions, to reverse auctions, we were able to bring prices down to the point where electricity from solar or electricity from wind is now the cheapest electricity when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. In India, last year in 2024, there were 4 auctions. 2 carried out by the Railway Energy Management Company, 1 carried out by NTPC, and the 4th carried out by the Solar Energy Corporation of India, which resulted in prices of round-the-clock renewable electricity, round the clock. So it's solar plus wind plus storage, which were less than 5 rupees a kilowatt hour. The reason why 5 rupees a kilowatt hour is important is because all the new coal capacity that was added during 2024 got prices of more than 5 rupees per kilowatt hour. To me, this makes the economic point. That leads us to the second point of policies. Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad spoke of the fact that land is going to be a problem. He spoke of the fact that lines, transmission lines are going to be a problem. I would argue that while the electricity cost is less, the initial cost of setting up the solar plus wind plus battery system is expensive. It's based on back calculating what came in for the tenders of the 4 successful plants. We calculated almost more than double of the cost of a coal power station. Now obviously, because you buy coal throughout, the cost becomes more. But what I'll argue is that the demand creation will lay at the heart of bringing the cost down and therefore it becoming economically viable for you and for me. I will also argue, like Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad did, that we need to ensure that storage gets a lot more attention, including pumped storage, than it has in the past. The third point I want to focus on, so the first was we merge long-term and short-term actions. The second was we create demand. And the third is invest in research and development. We have a Department of Science and Technology. We have an ANRF, the Anusandhan Research and Foundation, Anusandhan National Research Foundation. But they are unable to bridge the gap between industry and academia and research institutions. We find that the private sector, whenever it needs technology, goes abroad, gets the technology and moves on. That is both cheaper and less time consuming. What if we did a policy in which we have the long-term vision already clear. So progressively, you define the performance for 2030, for 2035, for 2040. Say, I'm from the solar area, and I can say that right now the best solar cells that are available are 24% efficiency. So say that in 2030, I want them to be 27% efficient. In 2035, I want them to be 30% efficient. Now you may quibble with these numbers, but the point remains that a forward-looking progressive policy which links procurement with performance may be what drives the linkage between academia on the one side and industry on the other. I think we need to pursue such kinds of innovative connections than we have done earlier. The last point I would like to make is on public awareness. I believe that, when I was in the government, one of the fears that each one of us had was, how do you justify a public awareness campaign? You spend a lot of money on it. How on earth do you make the case that it has been successful or not? You can't. So when I was in the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, we had done a mid-term assessment. So people went out and third party went out and asked whether your mind changed because of the campaign. I will argue that public awareness campaigns connect climate change to tangible local impacts, whether it is water scarcity or extreme heat, and therefore transform a distant global problem into one which is of pressing local and ethical concern. That helps in bridging the gap between the external world and the world we live in. I believe that these four initiatives on merging long-term and short-term actions, on creating large-scale demand, on investing in research and development, and on public awareness campaigns can help us achieve the sustainability goals that we set for ourselves. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. We would now move on to Mr. Derek Shah, CEO and Managing Director, L&T Energy Green Tech. He will be speaking on hydrogen economy possibilities for India.
Thank you so much, and a very good morning to all of you. Wonderful to hear you, Dr. Mathur, and all my previous speakers. And the theme is so wide, and the subjects that have been spoken about by multiple speakers are actually addressing various aspects of this particular theme. So there's been a lot been spoken about the power, storage, and multiple other areas. What I will talk about is the hydrogen economy and what are the possibilities in India. Obviously, it's one part of the subject, but possibly because Larsen and Toubro and the L&T Energy Green Tech that I head is doing a sizable part of this particular portion. So it will give me an opportunity to share with you my views on how the hydrogen economy can and will definitely develop in India. Obviously, to set the context, we have been tracking this, and we looked at why, and obviously the question was, is it only because of decarbonization? Yes, decarbonization is the big part of it, but also it also addresses the rising energy demands, and hence if you look at the energy security, the net zero goals, it actually converges and integrates all this to the reason why the hydrogen economy and the ecosystem around hydrogen is so important for all of us, especially not only in the industry, for the country, and as also for the globe. So the first part is, for our country, we are hugely dependent on fossil fuels. As you are all aware that we import more than 85% of our fossil fuels, and also 50% of our natural gas. And this is something that needs attention. The government is definitely looking at it, and we know what's in the present context also how this is also affecting us geopolitically. So hydrogen distribution, hydrogen generation, green hydrogen generation partly addresses this particular problem, and this is one of the reasons that Honorable Prime Minister's Green Hydrogen Mission actually spoke about the low-hanging fruits that could be addressed, which was the immediate requirements in the refineries, which are the refineries are big producers of gray hydrogen. And the result of that we saw was the recent tenders that came out of the oil and marketing companies, Indian Oil Corporation, HPCL, BPCL. Very proud to say that L&T won the first bid. We are setting up the first green hydrogen plant in India, the largest one of 10 KTPA at Panipat. And that's a culmination of multiple things that we were doing in the past. Obviously, to set this up, we were very much aligned with what was happening by the country, by MOPNG, by MNRE, and especially the hydrogen mission that was panning out. And we set ourselves a target to bring the technology of electrolyzers. I was just speaking to the panel speakers before we entered the room here, how we've actually indigenized the technology. We produce the electrolyzers in India, 100% indigenous, not imported, highly efficient, and we are completely ready to deploy it, not only in our plants and multiple projects across. So this is one area that we have addressed. Obviously, talking largely, because it's not only addressed to what L&T is doing, but looking at the hydrogen economy, beyond reducing the carbon footprints on the fossil fuels, we also need to look how the hydrogen ecosystem economy could address the hard-to-abate sectors. There are multiple sectors like steel and transportation and cement, etc., who also use fuel of the typical fossil fuels, which are contributing significantly to the carbon footprint. Obviously, the challenges are much more there. The technologies and iron and steel making it quite difficult to replace the coke. So there are, already technological developments happening. CBAM now being implemented in Europe disallows or possibly puts in a lot of impediments to the export of steel, which is making it or necessitating the steel industry also to look at how to use hydrogen. We can see early parts of it happening. Maybe going forward, this will be a big sector that we will be looking out for. A lot has been spoken about renewable energy, and rightly so. I think the numbers of 236 gigawatts right now going up to 500 gigawatts. It's spoke about grid stability, all relevant. So to that extent also, we believe that the reason for the renewables to be intermittent provides some reason for hydrogen to be providing a kind of a link between how to store hydrogen and use it at times to support the grid. So while I will not put it that could be the immediate risk, because we are now looking at hydrogen as a feedstock. We are looking at hydrogen as a feedstock in the refineries or fertilizers or maybe going forward in steel. But there are already strong reasons to believe that hydrogen could be also used as the storage of energy, which could in turn be looked at supporting the grid. Beyond the decarbonization and support of grid, etc., there's a huge economic opportunity that is also being provided by the complete hydrogen ecosystem. Right now, not only at the manufacturing, the manner in which this entire industry, we can see the traction happening, multiple projects going to come up. We have already seen 14 bids of SECI just concluded about a month back. Huge enthusiasm across the country. In fact, the price discovery has been so great that we have questions now coming in all from Europe, from Southeast Asia, and there's so much excitement happening. I strongly believe that this is just the start. We've set the right, we put the bar at the right level, the cost at the right, the discovered cost of green ammonia at the right level, multiple, industries waking up to the possibility that green ammonia, green hydrogen could be generated at very, very competitive prices in India, and this will explode into lots of business opportunities, project opportunities, manufacturing opportunities across. And this is the reason why I believe that this is another spin-off benefit of the hydrogen economy, that we can see the economic opportunities happening across. There is a lot of things beyond the country happening also across other geographies. And there also, India and the country is going to play a major role. We have seen multiple things happening in Europe, where announcements of up to 20 million tons of green hydrogen happening, the CFD contracts in Japan, Korea, Singapore, and multiple Indian companies are also pitching for a large stake or a market share in these happening, including L&T. We are actually going to put up a large green ammonia plant at Kandla port in Gujarat. And we are in discussion with multiple off-takers, including Japanese, Europeans, who are quite eager to leverage the cost competitiveness that can be done in India to fulfill their country's requirement, because a country like Japan cannot produce renewable power. So they lean on countries which can actually not only look at the green electrons, convert it into green molecules, and transport it across, the geographies to make sure that it meets their country requirement. Marine, international marine is another area that is coming up in a big way. IMO regulations are going to be implemented in October, which will mandate marine transport to be compliant to certain levels of carbon footprints, which will necessitate introduction of green fuels into the marine sector. Huge business opportunity also happening across. So the point I'm saying is, there is a large market that's going to develop in India. There's a large market developing in other parts of the world, and there's a large market also happening in the sectors which are transgressing across the geographies, marine, aviation, etc. So I think this is kick-starting the whole process, and in a right way, our Honorable Prime Minister came out with the Green Hydrogen Mission 2 years back. He spoke about the 5 million tons of green hydrogen. There was an outlay of more than 19,000 crores in terms of green hydrogen, green ammonia, manufacturing electrolyzers. And I think not only L&T, multiple companies have realized the potential of this economy, the hydrogen economy. And I'm glad to share my point of view that obviously it's all integrated, what we spoke about, how we are looking at renewable power, nuclear power, storage, hydrogen, and at some point of time, there'll be an integration of all these to make sure that we achieve our goal. Thank you so much.
We'll move on to the last speaker of the opening session, Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, CEO of BACS Rajdhani Power Limited. He will be speaking on technology-led sustainability in power distribution.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries on the days, off the days, and all the wonderful audience here. On a wonderful morning, it's raining outside, and we are talking on a wonderful topic which is very, very contemporary and relevant to all of us, which is sustainability and environment. I mean, 2 days ago, in the same venue, we were on a WRI conference, we were talking about climate change and resilience, impact, and how do we take it onward from here in the realm of sustainability. And today, thank you BCCI for arranging this wonderful conference with a very apt theme, where we talk about sustainability, green environment, and taking it forward. Now, to my mind, what I'm going to speak about is on the technology-led sustainability which I'm given to in distribution.
We have been talking about sustainability, energy transition. So why at all we are talking about this? Because there is some demand for energy. And that demand is there in the shape of electricity and non-electricity, both. So the statistics as it stand today in India and major globally as well, electricity forms about 18% to 20% of the overall energy basket. So the demand in the shape of electricity is about 18 to 20%. The balance is in form of say coal, oil, gas, which are directly being consumed in various industries or even in domestic and commercial sectors as well in various shapes and forms. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about ways and means of increasing the share of sustainable energy in the energy basket, including electricity. So distribution primarily, like us in Delhi, we are engaged into electricity basket. But there are major utilities across the globe which are integrated energy utilities. That means water, gas, electricity, all total combined. Now I'll focus more on electricity portion where technology is very, very important driver to underscore the fact that the sustainability is a journey and it can be achieved in a very frugal manner. What are the technologies we are talking about in distribution, for example? So the different consumer sets were connected may be at 230 volts, 400 volts, 11 kV, 33 kV, 66 and 132 kV, various kinds of customers. Majority in terms of numbers would be at up to 11 kV, and upwards of that will be majority industries. Now when you talk about technologies, it's not only about electricity, it's also about sector coupling. So my previous speaker talked about green molecules and green electrons converted into molecules and vice versa. And that brings me to the focus of demand and demand profile, which if has to be met through sustainable energy, we need to talk about flexibility, which is demand flexibility and grid flexibility. The way we have been enumerating and working on the demand forecasting is now slated to change. Sri Ghanshyamji talked about distributed energy resources, embedded, rooftop solar or battery storage, for example. Now, what we are forecasting today is not demand, it is net demand. So the net demand is the total demand minus the renewable energy generation generated within embedded distribution as well as outside. So the focus is more on forecasting the net demand, which is forecasting the distributed renewable energy as well as other renewable energy, which becomes very, very important. So that brings me to the topic of technology, which is very commonplace now, everybody is aware, AI. So artificial intelligence in forecasting the demand, forecasting the generation. And again, as I said, day before yesterday, we were talking about weather modeling, medium and long-term weather forecast and weather modeling, which is again a basis of stochastic and situational modeling, basically. Weather modeling in the sense of data, large-scale data. Large LLM models have to be trained for that one. So, without getting into such jargon, let us simplify technology. Now, the technology is to ensure that your reliability of energy and electricity supply is maintained. In distribution terms, the SID and SIFI, which is duration and frequency of interruption, they should be minimized. Today, in the country, we are focusing on loss reduction primarily, which is good. So technology-led loss reduction initiatives we have been doing across. In Delhi, we have already are at 6% and going below in certain pockets also. There are technology-led initiatives which are going to do so. But then, apart from loss, what are the technology initiatives which is going to help me reduce our SID? Currently in Delhi, it would be around say 1.5 to 2 hours. Developed nations, maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes, even few minutes, few seconds in Singapore, for example. How do you do that? So that is where we are focusing, and that is also leading to grassroots just energy transition and mass decarbonization of the grid. How? Digital energy grid. Many of us would have heard about it. Digital twin and digital energy grid. Recently, a Ministry of Power has also initiated initiative on India Energy Stack. What is it? Very simple. You are digitizing each and every node and bit of your grid, right from your consumer meter and even behind the meter up to your power transformer, maybe at 220 kV. And how does it help? It helps in getting you the situational awareness, real time, of what is the pain point and what is the demand, what is the congestion level, what is the voltage, or even the current imbalances in the grid. And therefore, also find out what are the synergies between the distributed energy resources embedded in the grid vis-a-vis the demand. I'll give you a very small, simple example. I have a energy storage in my home, for example, with a rooftop solar, and that is lying idle. I have an electric vehicle which is charged, lying idle. At that point in time, I do not need it. But then here is the utility or a discom. That point in time, there is other demand, mainly the cooling demand. So that point in time, there are two choices before the utility. One is obtain the entire purchase of the electricity right from maybe thousands of kilometers away, wheel it through the transmission and distribution network and bring it to the home. Second is, I as a discom would invoke that DER through the technology usage and call that into service, which is embedded within the demand system. Which one would be cheaper? Which one would be quicker? Which one will be more reliable? So especially if it is decongesting a particular area itself. So therefore, the real-time situational awareness of all the distributed sources within the grid would be possible only if we have digitized the entire grid, which is digital energy grid, and then use the same power of technology to create synergies within the embedded distribution, and don't look for anything exchanging outside the grid or minimize that. Okay, so this leads to the question like, how do you do it? Who is going to fund it? Because one of the topics is financial and business modeling also in all the energy sustainability. Thankfully, like CEA has come out with guidelines on O&M of distribution grid, where it talks about very exhaustive usage of technology for making the entire network completely efficient and hence more green. And how do you do that? For example, condition-based monitoring, we have been talking about this at length across conferences. But now it is the time wherein the cities like Delhi, where climate and weather plays a very important role, the moment you have a heat wave, entire assets comes crumbling down. So if you are doing a predictive and condition-based monitoring and maintenance, you are optimizing on the cost, as well as you are ensuring that the asset will not fail in the peak of the times, right? So this is going to help a lot in the proposals by the distribution utilities before the Honorable Commission's respective SERCs. They say that, okay, the CA guidelines are here, and if we practice them, if we incorporate them, we will be using technology, and hence that cost can be apportioned some way or the other. But it has to be on a frugal innovation kind of. It's not to be very high cost imported technology. This has to be frugal, local startups have to pitch in, which is happening now in India. Now, Bangalore, for example, has become a capital city of startups in the country. We are already leaders in digital economy anyway. Apart from that, what are the other policy or regulatory drivers which are coming? For example, demand flexibility regulations put in by Maharashtra is a shining example of how the regulators are now becoming agile to usage of technology, induce demand flexibility in the grid, and therefore you reduce your need to procure more and more power from outside and hence reduce ortho losses. Improve reliability, because if something is happening like clouds are there in Rajasthan, the solar generation is going to come down, and therefore it might impact your supply in Delhi. If you are having indigenous supply or demand flexibility measures implemented here, you will be more resilient. For example, California, in one fine August in 2022, there was a heat wave, and in the around 9 to 10 p.m., they were trying to meet that through two ways. One was invoking storage, another was invoking demand response or efficiency, VDR, behavioral demand response, and automated demand response from the consumers. Like for example, you push your demand, either defer to other time blocks, or put your demand other than the grid to your local generating sources, maybe power walls, for example, which is the power of technology. So in the times to come, if may I conclude, the technology is going to enable a level playing field for all the consumers who are now prosumers to play a shoulder to shoulder a role, very important in improving the reliability of the energy supply, B, also contribute tremendously in our efforts for a sustainable energy base. And finally, it's not only about the consumers who are residential or a small C&I customers, the big industries also are contributing in a big way by contributing to sector coupling. For example, 3 glaring examples of sector coupling. One is electric vehicle charging and renewable energy. Second is, Mr. Derek talked about green hydrogen production from renewable energy, and vice versa. Again, it requires a lot of modeling, which is again a technology. And third is industrial heat modeling. Thank you, and all the best for the conference.
Thank you, Mr. Ranjan, and all our speakers in the opening session. We'll be concluding the opening session here. I would request Mr. Vinit Sikka to please present tokens of our appreciation to the speakers on the dais. To Mr. Rajiv Shen. Dr. Mathur. Mr. Abhishek Ranjan. Mr. Derek Shah. So with this, we'll move on to the next session, that is